Hey guys, welcome back to Fishing with Katie. This week we're going to learn how to set up our poles, and we're also going to learn about the different types of reels that you can use while you're fishing. One part of fishing that can be kind of intimidating is getting that initial pole set up, but with some time and practice, you will become a pro at it in no time. And I kind of wanted to walk you guys through the steps of it so that next time you are at the lake or at the pond or even at the river that you know how to set up your pole. Now, before we get started with this, I do want to talk about a few of the different parts of the pole, just so that when I say a certain part, you don't get too confused. All right, so here is actually my personal fishing pole. So this long part here, where the line goes through, this is our fishing rod, and our reel is going to be this mechanism down here. Now today we're going to be talking about the different kinds of reels, because really the kind of reel you have is going to determine what kind of fishing you're doing and also your level of fishing expertise. Now, some fishing poles are actually what I would call pre-made, where they're already set up with the rod and reel. But you can also, if you go to a high-end sports store like Bass Pro Shop, Cabela's, or Shields, you can actually buy the rods and reels separately and put them together. And you can basically make whatever kind of combination of a rod reel that you want. For me, I really like a rod that's going to be suitable for doing more lake and pond fishing, and then I like a open spinning cast reel. Now the next thing about the pre-made ones, I really highly recommend this if you haven't done too much fishing, but the pre-made ones are going to be a little bit more inexpensive, and that way if something might happen to your pole, that it's pretty easy to replace and it's pretty inexpensive to replace. As someone who's taught a lot of kids how to fish, I know that there are quite some interesting things that can happen with those fishing rods. Okay, so next thing I'm going to show you guys how to set up your fishing pole so you are all ready for fishing. We're going to assume that you have maybe a pre-made one or you have one that already has line on it, but we're going to kind of walk through the steps. So what you'll kind of need is some hooks. I'm going to show you and talk a little bit about the difference between just a normal hook like this, which is an equal claw hook, a jig head hook like this one, a split shot, which is a weight. We've got a couple lures, we'll use one, a bobber, and a multi-tool. You can also have a pair of pliers or scissors, just whatever you want to. I like the multi-tool personally, just because it's got a lot of different features. I've got pliers. If I need to cut something, I've got a little knife. I've got like a saw and a knife. So use a handy little tool. If you're just starting out though, pliers and scissors, probably a little safer than this guy. All right, so to get started, so the first thing that we're gonna do is we're going to get our hook on our line. So I'm gonna be doing a polymer knot, because if you remember from the last video, that is my favorite type of knot. It's quick, it's simple, it's easy. All right, so now that we've got that done, we'll do an overhand knot. And make sure that we've got a nice big loop at the end. Put that hook through that loop, and we just pull up. The nice thing about the line is that it's pretty slick, so it's pretty easy to pull that knot tight. Once you're done with that, what I like to do is I like to cut off my excess. So you can use, scissors, I'm gonna use my little knife on my multi-tool. Just being very careful. I'm going to cut away from me and cut that line. And you can really cut that as short as you want to. I just like a little bit left. Once you got your hook, you're gonna get your split shot on it. This guy, why it's called split shot, is that there is a split halfway down that makes a little mouth, and it's also split on the other side as well. And it kind of looks like a little mouth, which is kind of fun. So I'm gonna go up about an inch, inch and a half, and slip my mouth of my split shot onto my line. Take the pliers of my multi-tool and just smash them down. And there you go. Now you might be wondering, well, how come we are putting the split shot, this weight? Well, just by itself, the bait and the hook might not be enough to really get that down to a good level. So this helps weigh it down so that you can get down to where the fish are. Now, next part is a little tricky. I'm gonna go up about 1.5 to 2 feet on my line, and I'm going to use my bobber. So at the bobbers, there's a couple different types you can use, but this is like one of my more favorite types to use. Basically, there are 2 different hooks on them. When I press down this top part, you have a little hook that comes out, and when I hold the bottom right here and push down this black part, you have another little hook that comes out. These are the hooks that are going to use to hook your bobber onto your line. So this is going to be a little tricky, so you might need some help with this. So first I'm going to get the bottom, so press it down, get the hook out, connect it down. Then I'm going to hold the bottom and press down my black part and thread my line in and let it go. And my bobber is on my line. So pretty simple. Now lastly, what you're gonna do is you're gonna put a lure or live bait or any type of bait you want on your hook. Kind of really depends on what you're gonna be fishing for. So to kind of get that lure on, this little guy's kind of fun because he's got 2 little tails. When I move him in the water, he's going to move around, catch the fish's attention. A lot of fish feel vibrations on them, so they're going to feel that or it's gonna catch their eye. So how I'm gonna get him on is I'm going to hold him up straight, get my hook right into the middle of his little head, and kind of just push him through the hook until he's standing up straight and he is on my line. Now, if you want to take your split shot off, it's pretty simple. You've got kind of a little mouth on the back end. So you just take your pliers, press down on that back end, and the mouth will open up and let go of your line. Instead of just using the normal hook and sinker, you can also use what's called a jig head. This guy, the top part here is actually weighted down already, so you don't have to worry about putting a sinker on it. And basically just get this guy on and get a bobber on and you are good to go. You tie this hook onto your rod just like you would the other hook. And really the only difference is that you wouldn't use another sinker. You just use this, which is kind of nice. All right, so that's how you can set up your pole. So the next thing we're gonna talk about is the different types of reels that you can have. Now, so there are about 8 different types of reels, but we're gonna show you 4 of those types and kind of talk about some of the pros and cons of using these different types of reels. Some of them are very specialized, like a fly fishing reel, while others are not quite so much. Now, for the reels, there's a spin cast, bait cast, there's an open face spinning reel, which is my favorite, a conventional or trolling reel, a fly fishing reel, and a center pin reel. All right, so this is the first reel that I want to talk about. This is called a spin cast reel. What's interesting about these is that they are actually really good for beginner fishermen. If you've never fished before in your entire life, I highly recommend checking this guy out. They are typically already attached to your rod, so there's not really any unnecessary setup that you have to do. What's nice too is that the cast, you just have to press a button, fling it out, and your line comes out. So really easy and simple to use. What can be a little detrimental about these guys is that they're not very accurate and they don't allow you to cast very far. Additionally, you can't get a really thick line on them because of how they're made. So you're not gonna be catching that really big fish and being able to reel it in. Your line most likely will snap or something might happen to your rod. But if you've never fished before, starting out with these guys is probably one of the best things that you can do. All right, this next one is my personal favorite, and it's a open face spinning reel. Now what's nice is that this one is nice and light, and once you get the hang of them when you're casting, they're really easy to use. They're great for fishing in lakes and ponds and off the beach. And you can also do a little bit of deep sea fishing with them as well. Really, once you get the hang of these, you're not gonna wanna go back to a spin cast reel because you're able to throw your line a lot further and they are more accurate than the spin cast reels. Really, I guess the downside of these is that you're not gonna be able to really do as good of a job deep sea fishing, but other than that, they really do a good job getting the job done. The next one is probably the ones that is going to cost the most, and that is our Baitmaster. So our Baitmaster, they are probably one of the top favorites among anglers. They are more complicated to use. So really, if you're just a casual fisher, don't really recommend getting this guy. It might be better to start off with a spin cast and see how much you like fishing. And if you really like it, I would move more onto a open face spinning reel rather than this guy here, because he is a little bit more difficult and it is very easy to get your line caught up in this one to where it's hard to get it untangled. The good things about this reel though is that it gives the angler more controlled accuracy in casting, but it does require quite a bit of skill to cast properly. They are often pretty expensive and require quite a bit of patience and practice to work correctly. If you've ever gone deep sea fishing, there's a high chance that you have used one of these guys, just much bigger. But they really hold up well, and they can really reel in that big kahuna for you. All right, so this is a fly fishing reel, and they were designed with precision in mind. So fly fishing reels offer the most accurate casting you can find. They're really simple, reliable, and they're also really durable. What's really neat about them is that unlike other types that we talked about, it's the weight of the line that helps cast this, not the weight of the bait. So when I was showing you guys how to set up a fishing pole, we had either a jig head or a weight on the line. For fly fishing, you actually don't need that. All the weight comes from the line. And if you've ever seen one, you'll see that they kind of use special line. It can be quite expensive to start with fly fishing, but what you use for fly fishing is really durable and can last 40 to 50 years if you get a good bit of equipment. All right, I want to thank you guys all for tuning in today. I hope that you got to learn a little bit more about some of the most common reels that can be used, along with how to get your fishing pole set up. Next week, we're going to be doing a What's in My Tackle Box, and I'll kind of go over some of the best things to have in your tackle box and maybe some things that maybe later down the line you want to splurge on. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you next week for Fishing with Katie. Bye guys.